The views and opinions expressed in this podcast by the host or the guest do not necessarily reflect the views of Paranormal Buzz Radio or its sponsors. Use of any material produced by Paranormal Buzz Radio without express written consent is strictly prohibited. For information on everything Paranormal Buzz Radio has to offer, visit our website, paranormalbuzzradio.com. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter and Instagram. Listener discretion is advised.
I think I've always believed in the paranormal, but the deeper I get in this field, the more questions I uncover. I started a program called Seeking the Paranormal in an effort to gain insight and dialogue from others interested in the same things as me. And while we've learned a lot together, the questions still remain. So I'm bringing my thoughts to the airwaves, and I've brought along my friends, Adam and John, to share in the fun. Together, we'll tackle the tough topics and debate the evidence as we continue to seek the paranormal.
I will forewarn everybody that we have done Shay's Paranormal Chat prior to this. So these two are well lubricated and...
Lubricated? That was not the term.
I'd rather suitably refreshed.
Right.
Okay. You get the picture.
Well, it's a better picture than well lubricated.
Let's see. Last episode, y'all were talking about putting radios in inappropriate places, so I don't feel like we're too far off from where we were.
I don't remember that.
Oh, you two little angels. You don't remember?
I've never done anything of the sort.
OMG.
Nothing.
Besides that, where is inappropriate for a radio?
Right.
I'm going to guess up somebody's rectum.
I've never used the word rectum in my life apart from just now.
Some people might like that, and then I think I said that in the last episode. So it's not really inappropriate.
I think we're going to get edited.
Yes.
You are.
I feel an edit coming on. So now.
I feel an edit, boy.
Well, and none of us have had any investigations.
At the Granger House.
Oh,
Yeah,
yes.
WTF did the Granger
Yes,
House.
yes, yes.
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
It was kind of fun because we did a couple of experiments, flashcard experiment we did, and what was really cool when we were setting up in the dining room and Adam was still there, we had the spirit box on, we just turned it on just to test it, and we were sitting there with the flashcards and we heard over the spirit box, Adam's leaving, so they know your name.
They do.
They do.
No, we
And the ghost feeder went off right when I said that, I was going to go ahead and take off.
Yep, ghost feeder went off, and then when you were leaving the door, we heard Adam's leaving. And actually, we want to do an experiment that I've always wanted to do, which is a predictive experiment. So when we do the Granger House next, we're going to write down what we think is going to happen and when from the data we've got, from the times we've been there, and see how much of that actually happens, because to me it's important when you do an experiment you can then make predictions, and if your predictions are true you know you're onto something. So we're putting that together because it followed a pattern again. So early evening we got a lot of spirit box stuff in the dining room that was relevant, and then nothing until about 4 in the morning. Mm-hmm. And then we got a lot back in the coach house, and that was relevant, like Wake Up Albert and stuff like that.
Well, and talking to Jeff, who's a member of your team, he suggested also that maybe bringing his wife out there next time you do an investigation, just putting the female, that might make it, because if you listen to REP, Paranormal and Friends, which they're on right before us, they've been to the Granger House a couple times. The last time they were there, they were getting so many naughty words over the ghost box, and it was really clear. Like, they were saying bitches and PUSSY, and...
Did they spell it or say the word?
I hate that word.
Yeah, she refuses to say it.
Some people hate moist. That's how I feel about PUSSY. I hate that word and I spell it. I refuse to say it. So I spell it every time. But that's the kind of stuff they were getting over the ghost box, and you could hear it. It wasn't just them making it up. It was loud. So Jeff and I were talking about that, and he thought that maybe it was because you guys were men and that's where you belonged. Not having the females there, that might be the difference maker.
Yeah. I mean, like I say, it's all data points. Collect as much as we can. That way we can draw conclusions and then test them with an experiment and try and do a predictive one. And if those we'll see how many we hit. We're going to sit down, me and Jeff probably, and Nico, going to sit down and say, okay, how do you think this is going to run based on what we've had so far? And we'll have a chart, and then the next time we go investigating, if it happens, we'll check it off. If other things happen, obviously we'll add those, but our actual predictions, we want to see how many of them we can actually do. And if we do that, any other groups that go to the Granger House can then have that prediction sheet and say, how many of these happen for you, and get it validated from other groups, not just us.
Yeah, it'd be a good widespread experiment for future teams coming to investigate.
And how often do you think, the paranormal might be on a schedule just like we are? Like, it's not something you think about, but, based on your research, it might be more than we would...
See, my theory of what ghosts are is probably different from a lot of people's, but there's a guy called J.C. Knight that put out that book. I can't remember what it is now.
Is that the one you loaned me?
Yeah, it's the one about quantum physics and the paranormal. So his hypothesis is when we die, what he called and I love the word, an intelligent singularity.
Yeah.
So, and most of the time they're in a dream state. So, if they, when I dream about work or all kinds of things. So I'm wondering, taking that theory and then, sometimes you get acknowledged, but it's like talking to someone in their sleep.
Yeah.
So you'll get acknowledged, you'll still get gibberish, or you might get some of it that refers to what you're talking about or what you're doing. So, that's the angle we kind of been covering, and I've always felt in the Granger House, it's more of a it's a much more subdued haunting than some places you go to where there's things in your face and scaring you and everything. Granger's, we love going there because it's just a comfortable investigation.
Well, it's a good place to do experiments. Really.
We test out new equipment. One thing we did have there this time that we've never had before really is, and I don't have that. I've never had them most places. Is we had a massive EMF spike about 4 in the morning. Well, we had one earlier about 11:30, 12, and then we had one at 4 in the morning. So, and the one before, Nico was taking a picture with his phone of the Trifeld meter, just to get a picture of it.
I saw that.
And the picture is just garbled. And the one before that is kind of flaky, where he took, and then he took another one of it. And we looked at the photos he took before that and after that, and they were fine. And I've never seen that happen on a digital phone.
No, it was crazy.
Yeah. So
it was just total lines. That's craziness.
So, so yeah, we get some good stuff. We just, you just got to try and put it all together and draw a conclusion, make a prediction, and see if it happens next time.
I have that book on my bedside table. I need to keep reading it. I started it, and
it's hard to read.
The other book that you gave me, though, I'm giving it back to you because it was so ridiculous I can't even get through it.
Which one?
The one that ghosts are only contactable for 6 days or whatever.
I told you, I gave you that because that's a nutcase.
Oh my god.
That guy's an absolute nutcase.
But he thinks he's so legit.
Yeah, and he's questions and answers.
He's like, I did these experiments, and that's why I had to write this book.
That's why I got it.
And
then you read it, you're like...
And he's a scientist, a doctor. He's got initials after his name.
That's why I bought it. And then I read it, and I'm like, is this guy wearing a tinfoil hat?
Yes.
What is wrong with this man?
It's not even like
coherent.
Good English.
No, it's not coherent. It's just... I think he just took LSD and started hitting his...
that's something we should talk about sometime, though, because LSD has been tied to paranormal experiences.
Of course it has, because you'll see anything you want when you take it.
But... it was so poorly written. I can't even follow what he considers logic. Like, it's so ridiculous. Something about, like, they're only contactable for so many days, and then they go to another planet, and it's for, like, 80-some days, but it could be just 2 weeks.
And then there's rules, and then they're not allowed to interact.
And when they can and cannot tell you stuff, and your family members can tell you stuff, a random ghost can't, and it was just so ridiculous. So I have to give that back to you because I can't. I've tried a couple different times to read it, and I just...
No, it's terrible.
It is.
And it's only like 20 pages long. It's not very big. So,
no, and I probably got through like
Mm-hmm.
5, and I'm like, I can't anymore because it's so nonsense.
Yeah, but I found it. But it's part of research. So for me, it was because that gave me the idea of the leaps of faith thing. It's like, how far do you go with these beliefs?
Serious.
This
that
guy was
takes
like,
leaps of faith to a whole new level.
oh, he was in a different galaxy.
Yeah.
Literally.
Yeah.
I was pretty proud of myself because Half Price Books is my very favorite store in the whole world. And and I'm sorry because my fur baby is in here and she's apparently having an anxiety attack because she's panting really bad. So
it's not a human baby, it's a dog. So don't get worried.
If you can hear her, I apologize, but it's either that or she's going to be standing at the top of the stairs barking.
Okay, let's give the dog LSD. See what that's.
We could.
That'd be interesting.
Right, we're gonna get the PCA coming in.
My poor little baby. But usually at Half Price Books, I go straight to the paranormal aisle, and that's where I spend my time. And I feel like such a grown-up now because I have expanded, and I went to the science aisle today, and I got my first physics book about entanglement. So proud of myself. So I am expanding my paranormal boundaries.
Well, I just feel that, and it's fine having a belief system, you know, that helps you through bad times and through day, that's fine, but if we're going to put investigator into our name, you have to have something that grounds us in the physical universe we're actually in right now. So, and if we're going to say ghosts interact with us, there's got to be physics involved, otherwise they couldn't interact with us. So that's the first thread that I try to go to and pull.
Well, and I will, so the book's called Entangled Minds, one I got today. And when I'm done reading it, I'm going to give it to you because it talks about how the entanglement theory may explain some of what we consider to be psi phenomenon or psychic phenomenon. So I'm excited to read it, and it says it's written so anybody can understand it. I will put that to the test.
Well, the one what was it, JC Knight? He's got some stuff in there, the one I gave you.
Yeah.
But he actually, talks about a theory of microtubule computation, which means that our brains can work. There's a theory out there that's actually, it's not mainstream, but some scientists are looking at it, that our brains actually work on a quantum level. So, which means that our consciousness isn't tied to the cells and the neurons firing in our brains. There's a lot more going on there, which can exist after the physical brain is no longer there.
Which makes so much sense.
Yeah.
There was another book that I wanted to get, but I wasn't going to push my luck because I wasn't there supposed to be spending money. I was supposed to be making money.
I hope by selling books.
Yes. Yeah.
So what'd you do this afternoon?
But I didn't want to push my luck and coming home with too many books. But there was another one that I wanted to get that talked about dimensions and the theory of there being different, more than just the 3 dimensions. And I'm hoping that nobody else will want to buy that book because I don't know why they would. And so next week when Adam won't notice that I went and bought another book, I might go get that.
String theory has what's called the brainworm theory, which tries to also account for the fact that gravity is a weak force in that, I think they labeled it the bulk. So basically the theory is, really simply, look it up because it's a lot more complex, but everything in the universe, everything is kind of stuck on a membrane. So that's our whole physical universe is stuck on a membrane. But there are more than one membranes, and between those is what they call the bulk. And because gravity has to travel through those, that's why it's a weaker force than the other electromagnetic, and that's why you can pick up paper clips with a magnet, because it's stronger than gravity. So that's pretty much becoming mainstream science now, that there are other dimensions. So another thing to look into. Yeah.
So I mean, until we started this, I had read Quantum Parapsychology, and I probably need to reread it because, to be honest, I know I loved it, and I know it had a lot of good points, but I can't remember everything from the book. But that was probably the most that I had gone outside of paranormal books. And you are hungry, dude.
I'm good.
But until we started this, it hadn't even crossed my mind that I should be expanding into different fields. And that's why I'm thankful that we're doing this, I guess, because it's making us a little bit smarter.
You don't make me smarter. Me and my other brother, Daryl.
Dear Lord. So, pre-record our shows. So by now, you surely know that Ghost Hunters has made its return. And I just wanted to talk about it briefly just because it was a show that we all kind of had an appreciation for when it first started. And now that it's back, I'm just curious to know how you guys felt about... Have you watched more than just the first episode? You did?
Yep. Yes, I did.
I did not watch the second episode, but I do have something I want to talk about with it. But how are you feeling about this new reboot?
Of all those reality shows that are out there, the Taps team were my favorite. But I'm going to do the caveat that I realize it's a reality show.
Yeah.
So I cannot put the weight behind it. But when it came back, I watched one or two, can't remember. But I like their approach way better. Mm-hmm. They use technology. They don't explain it, which is annoying me. I wish they'd just go into the theory. You know, I wish they'd go into the theory of why this EMF meter should go off, what it's actually measuring, you know, things like that. But they also, you know, in Fathead, the one I watched, he kind of dropped a hint that because they went to a private residence where it actually scared the people out, he said, I'm glad they called our group and not another group, because another group will go in and live their paranormal fantasies out at the cost of the client.
Yeah, that was this past week.
Exactly who he was talking about.
So that was episode 3.
Yeah. So, you know, so I like their approach. You know, of all the reality shows, you know, their approach to me is my favorite.
I was really excited in the first episode that they went straight for the cobweb on that camera. Mm-hmm. Because I think, like, if that would have shown up on any other show, they would have run with it. Mm-hmm. I really do. Mm-hmm. Because, to be honest, when I first watched it, when I first saw what looked like a ghost in the hallway, I thought a door actually opened, but it wasn't. It was just whatever that was going in front of the door that kind of made it wobbly a little bit. And that's why at first I was like, what the hell is this? But when he went straight for the cobweb, God, more people need to start doing that. It was beautiful. I loved that he did that.
Downside is it's boring.
It is, but it's real.
Right. Yeah. But to the people that really care about this field, that little bit of boring is okay.
Yeah, it's great.
Because we're like...
I'm talking other groups in general.
Yes. Yeah. No, I understand what you're saying. I just, like, I enjoyed the fact that, yes, they debunked that. Uh-huh. You know, I enjoyed the fact that, like you were talking about the equipment, I enjoyed the fact that I saw them using the tri-field meters.
Yes, I noticed that too. Not K2s.
No, they didn't
Which
have
is
K2s.
Fabulous because they did have, was it a millimeter that I saw in the third episode when they were outside, maybe? It was something along those lines, but they were using the tri-field meters, I should say, again, and, you know, it's got no lights and no fun, you know, little, like you say, blinkety-blinkety things. Yep. But I think that's probably the appropriate tool.
It is. I mean, it's made to measure what it says it's made to measure. Mm-hmm. And it's used not just in the paranormal field, it's used by people that earn their money doing that. So, you know it's not going to be capricious and go off every now and then just for the hell of it, you know.
Yeah.
And it tells you what you're measuring, you know, magnetic, radio frequency.
Right.
You know.
Now, I didn't watch the episode where they did introductions and talked about their equipment, so I don't know anything about the Tesla speaker. Do you know much about that?
Tesla speaker is, there's kits for it on eBay. I've almost bought a couple of them because, I mean, they look good. Basically, it's energy that is fluctuating and causes sound waves, as far as I understand it. So, you know, I don't see the advantage over a normal speaker, in theory, if you go to the root of how they're affecting the electronic equipment, but it does look good. and I'm all for that, you know, and maybe by using that, you know, if maybe they can interact differently. I'm not against using one. But, you know, I'd be more interested on, does the speaker do more than using the normal one? Because, you know, not just for, a Tesla speaker is easier for ghosts to talk through, which is what a lot of ghost places will sell it as. This is a new thing, it's easier for ghosts to talk through it. Well, why? You know, they're still going to have to interact with it in the same way as they do a normal speaker. Mm-hmm. So, on a physics.
Yeah.
Looks cool, though.
I won't argue.
I still might build one.
Yeah, why not? Yeah.
I was a little curious why, and I assume shows have kind of like an exclusivity with some pieces of equipment. For example, anything that is digital dowsing is going to come out on Ghost Adventures, and I don't know how it works with other shows using it, because I know, like, for example, Wraith Chasers are using, like, I think a 3rd generation Ovilus, and they're, like, we're up to the 6th now, I think. So, I don't know who
What's the difference between version 3 and version 6?
Version 6 has a lot more shit than it does.
Right. Well, like, version 5 is... We have 5, right?
No. I think we have the newest one.
Oh, we do? Okay. I don't know. It can like log your words that come out.
So it'll do where it shows you the word that's being said, which is the one that pretty much the only thing we ever use it for. And to be honest, we don't use it that often, and I keep saying I'm just going to sell it, and then I don't, because then I'm like, no, we need to start using it. But you can also do the phonetics, so it'll like talk to you, and text-to-speech you figure out what the hell it's trying to say. There's a yes or no thing that supposedly you can get them to like touch, 1 for yes, 2 for no, whatever. There's a thing that kind of checks the energy around you, kind of like Ghost Radar. It kind of does Ghost Radar.
Like a REM pod.
Sort of, yeah. But it shows you like where it is compared to where you're standing. So there's all kinds of... I'll let you look at it sometime. I should let you look at it, and you can probably tell me better about... I don't know. We really don't use it a ton. I have started turning it on. We hardly ever get words out of it, to be perfectly honest. And we've talked, if you listen to our past episodes, like at Squirrel Cage, we did get a couple words. John felt like they were a little too cliche, which is probably true. But, you never know what you're going to get that could potentially match up with what's happening. I don't know enough about how it works to know that it's not doing what Facebook's doing on your phone and listening to what you're saying and just popping a word out.
It's true. Facebook listens to you.
It does.
Have you ever said the word penis with your phone?
No, because I don't want that to happen. Now it's going to now you said it, because my phone's sitting right here.
Start enjoying Facebook a lot more right now.
Thanks, jerk. No, like I was telling you earlier, the Glowforge thing. We've talked about your Glowforge quite often. I've never Googled it on my phone, but I get ads for it on Facebook all the time now.
Yeah, you Googled it on the...
No.
Because I get ads for it all the time, which really annoys me because I bought one. I'm like, stop trying to sell me when I got one.
So, I wanted to see them, like, in the gym, use, like, an EDI meter or something. They talked about hearing something going up and down or, like, the vibrations or whatever, but they didn't really use hardly any equipment in the gym at all.
It was just most of what happened in the gym was just I think actually all of it was just kind of personal experience.
Yeah, they had kind of an empathic moment where they both felt very emotional and felt like they got hugged. The one thing, kind of talking what you said about them not explaining stuff, I wanted them to talk about the energy drain versus energy draw, because I'm not sure I really understood where they were going with it, because when they were standing up the second day, when Grant and 2 other were standing up in the auditorium's little area where they had the flashlight set up and the recorder and then the Tesla speaker, and they wanted it to take energy from the flashlights. Grant said that's an energy draw, not an energy drain. You understand the difference, right? And whoever he was talking to said, right. And then they didn't say anything else.
I don't understand the difference either. Unless, I guess for the only thing I can imagine is... So if you have an energy drain, the batteries don't last as long. If you have an energy draw, let's say with the light on, the light gets dimmer.
Yeah, I wanted him to expand on that because I wasn't sure I understood. And then they talked about that too with the fact that the lights were going berserk, which is part of the reason they were called in. The lights in the school were kind of going nutty. And he talks about that being an energy draw as well. I'm not so certain I think that the light...
Yeah, I couldn't tell you what the difference is. It's terminology that's pretty...
But that's,
Yeah, because to me, from a mechanical standpoint, a draw and a drain, to me, in my mind, is the same thing.
Yep.
But like you said, if you're going to talk about these things and you're going to do semi-educational, but then go for it,
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Explain what you mean. I don't know. Can we reach out to him?
Sure.
Just ask. Like,
Grant tweets all the time.
Well, hey, you said this. Can you... explain to me the difference?
What are you talking about?
Right. What? I don't get it.
You don't. Explain to my brother down.
Jesus. Honest to God.
So, there's that.
Well, and sometime we'll talk about why we think schools are haunted. because it's kind of weird that they are.
Because there was a rapist janitor in every single one of them.
There was not, and they never went. Although I did like that they went to a historian and they disproved all of the rumors that the kids had. I liked that they did that as well instead of just going with it, because y'all know how I feel about shows giving misinformation. We've had that rant before. The second episode, though, I was just going to mention that I didn't watch the second episode, but apparently they were called in because there was a picture taken of a window on a second or third floor, and there was a face in it.
That was the mansion in New York.
Well, and then I saw, because I follow Grant on Twitter, and I saw he posted a few days after that show aired that he was thankful that people were watching the show and had a link to his YouTube video. Well, come to find out, one of the viewer, or I guess a bunch, but started with one woman, reached out to them and said, I've seen that face before. It's from like this app or whatever. And come to find out the whole thing was completely fake.
Yep.
So that was
yeah, and I mean that was interesting to me in that they were doing. See, this is the pitfall that this is what runs me. You know, they're doing it, they're getting beeps go off, and then, you know, it beeps when he said the word mother, and from there, there's it's not just the lady, your mum's here too, and your mum's seen the house, and you know, and I'm like, man, where are you getting this from? You know, just from a couple of beeps and boops here and there, it's like, you know, and that's how I find that people roll along with it, and it's a nice story, and it ends nice because his mum's seen his house, and I get that, but to me that's not investigating.
Right.
That's just telling a modern folklore story, you know, using equipment that goes beep and boop. As much as I like the use of the equipment, but that's still what's happening. You know, to me.
So before we get into our topic for tonight, which is shadow people, speaking of things being fake, I posted on our Twitter and Facebook page, so by the time you're hearing this, it's been on there 2 weeks, roughly. But I came across, I was going through old emails, and I had forgotten that I had a few that were kind of newsletters, and I was reading one from ITC Voices, which is a website that I really like. And now they've gotten a new one called Paranormal Study, and they're by the same people, but they're places for education. You know, there's different articles you can read, different studies you can read, just a lot of different stuff. But the guy who runs it, I think his name is Tim Woolworth, is his first name Steve Huff?
Yes.
Okay, so we all know how John feels about Huff, kind of the same way he feels about Chris Boone.
Yes. Speaking of which, I was looking at one of his videos, and I think it was the one where the girl's necklaces going around and crap like that. So, and I just started looking at the comments, and you know, it's all like, oh, you're great, and but there were a couple of people that said, no, that's rubbish, and then one guy actually said, you know, called him out. Chris Moon actually threatened to beat him up. What? Well done there. Yeah.
Are you serious?
I know. I was like, well done.
Oh my god, that's hilarious.
Yeah.
Oh. Well, and he started his relationship with Frank Sumption really volatile like that, and they were exchanging not nice words back and forth too, so apparently Chris is a little bit of a hothead. Huh. That's funny, threatening to beat him up. I'm going to have to check those out.
In a roundabout way. So, okay, big guy, have you ever been turned? You know, I'm like, what are you going to do? You're about 100 pounds.
And he is.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, so Steve Huff. So, sorry, I'm all over the place. But I thought this video was funny because I know a little bit about Steve Huff, but he's never been anybody that I've paid a ton of attention to. But I know that there's people who, like, bow down at the temple of Huff. And he apparently talks to people like the second they die. He jumps on the ghost box to talk to them.
That's been debunked.
Right. Well, and this video was beautiful because I don't even remember. Oh, it was some rapper that I had never heard of because I'm old. But it showed Steve's video talking to this rapper on the ghost box and then paired up with an interview this rapper had given.
Played backwards.
Oh my god. Backwards, and sometimes not even that. Sometimes just straight up. And it is exactly the same thing.
Same with Robin Williams.
Oh my god. Well, and then I started looking in, and you know, people have done it when the Warrens died, and apparently Lorraine said that Steve Huff has apparently talked a lot about how he and Ed were friends, and Ed did all this for him, and Lorraine has said publicly, apparently, how she does not care for Steve Huff, and he is full of shit. I mean, she's nicer than that. She didn't say those words.
You know he actually does, don't you? He's a sound technician.
Beautiful.
Well, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah, but I mean, how, like, you talk about how much more can you prove that somebody is a straight up fucking fraud, and people just don't care. I mean, I know we've talked about it before, and I hate proving you right, but
I want it to be real mentality, so
it
therefore
is.
it is.
It
I mean,
is.
that's just
But it blows my mind.
Plus, you're taking something away from someone that
You
they
are,
don't want to. God, not giving that up.
I was blown away at how, like, obvious it was.
Mm-hmm.
Jesus Christ. Yeah. So I shared that with John because I thought that he would absolutely love that, because that
I'd already seen it.
proves his point.
I know, I'd already seen it. That's why I said, tell us yourself. I'd already seen that one and the Robin Williams one, and I was like, this guy's just... I mean, honestly,
and he's exploiting death. He's exploiting somebody's death by doing that.
And here's the other thing that, I mean, to me, it's obvious to some people that believe it isn't. His spirit portals a box that looks cool. It's got an amplifier in it, a couple of guitar pedals in it to give it the, the effect on the voice. As I said, he's a sound technician.
Yeah.
And I built one. And his sell for God knows how much. Now, the thing that really,
But he's
for me,
retired now, right? Or is that not a thing?
I hope. Anyway, the thing to me that puts salt in the wound is his had crystals on it.
Of course.
He just, glued crystals on it, and then he's got a wire. So he's trying to be a Chris Moon saying that he's a psychic, and using the box there as well. So, I'm like...
Do those two work together? I don't know.
Well, they could, but why?
Well, I know. I'm just curious, because they're both so full of it.
I had a conversation with a demonologist on chat on Facebook. I don't know why.
How does this come about?
I don't know. I was just sitting on Facebook and it just popped up. So he was talking, I'm a demonologist and yada yada. I'm like, that's fine and everything. But I decided to do an experiment. I couldn't help myself.
Oh dear.
So I started chatting with him about the rise of Asmodeus over Beelzebub, and that the apparent exile of Satan from hell is that politics, or did he do it of his own free will? He's stepping out of the politics, got sick of it. This guy was sagely giving me advice and agreeing with me and this and that. The only problem is my whole narrative came from an article that was in the Best of the Dragon Volume 2 in the 80s, which was a Dungeons and Dragons magazine. So, I'm just saying, when people believe things,
oh God, that's so funny.
They'll roll with it because, I didn't take anything away. I'm not going to mention who the guy was, but, I just thought, look, okay, is this guy actually know something, or is it just folklore that we're dealing with? So I added my own folklore that I got in the 80s playing Dungeons and Dragons, and I never forgot that.
So
that article
funny.
is so good. If anybody, it's called The Politics of Hell, and I've always remembered it all these years because it was so well written and believable that I used it on this guy.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, and he was agreeing with me, and we were discussing it. I'm like, why am I discussing this? It's an article at the Dungeons and Dragons magazine.
And he was probably so super serious about it too.
He was all kinds of excited that I knew the names. So, that's what that kind of pertains to Huff and the others.
It does, and it's embarrassing.
It's not, because I understand why people get that way. To be honest with you, psychologically, it's about power. If people feel powerless, to have a knowledge all their own gives you power.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And it's psychologically, that's the way people go a lot of times. So I try not to make fun of them, and I always feel like a cad attacking those kind of values. But if you're going to be a ghost hunter and be an investigator, you have to just block them off and say.
Well, but I think if you're going to call yourself a demonologist, then people should be able to. Okay, so I'm a dispatcher, so people should be able to question me on the job I do, the things I believe, the processes, and I should be able to answer them appropriately if I'm going to call myself that. So I think being a demonologist is really no different. So if you're going to be a demonologist, First of all, what the hell makes them... I mean, I understand in, like, the Catholic Church, like, you have to be appointed and go through classes. But, like, for the rest of us lay people, what the hell just makes somebody a demonologist?
Nothing.
Like, because I read?
The people I encounter, they say, well, I studied under whatever their name is, you know, and I'm supposed to know what that name
Like,
means.
the guy that is always on Ghost Adventures, he is straight up just full of garbage. And I've read some articles on him being basically ousted as being a joke as well. And I know that I don't really remember a priest being on Paranormal State, but apparently there was. And God, I read a bunch of books on my Kindle that were just blew Paranormal State apart, but the guy was like right on, and he reminded me of the guy with, good Christ, I can't think of anybody's name anymore. Anyway, he tore Paranormal State apart, but he also talks about, apparently they had a priest on there too that said he was a demonologist, and also talked about how he was a joke as well. And like, they went in and like looked at the background of these people, and they're like, well, here is your demonologist. He read a book and self-appointed. And I think that too many people, demonologist and skeptic, those are the two words anymore that make me want to pull my fucking hair out.
I haven't got any hair left.
Neither one of you do.
Neither do I.
No. But, I mean, that's the thing. So, I look at it this way. When someone says demonologist, I'm like, all right, now you're in the realm of beliefs. That's fine, you have your beliefs. But when they start trying to shove it at me and say, no, it's all true, and I know this, and I studied under such and such, I'm like, you might as well say, I'm a fairyist. I know the difference in fairies.
Right.
Or goblins, or, you know, to me, that's where those all belong. Those are all, to me, you know, folklore subjects. I know there's a lot of paranormal investigators that believe in demons, but getting onto what we're going to get onto is shadow people. How do you know it's just not an angry, violent, normal, you know, spirit? Why has it got to be a demon? To me, that smacks of sensationalism and,
right.
You know, and then once you call it a demon, then you start plugging into all that folklore about demons, and then you're just making up a huge story about something where someone got scratched.
Right. So, speaking of, Mike Ricksecker is an author, producer, publisher, does just a bazillion different things with Haunted Road Media. I first encountered him at one of our local paranormal expos, and he is currently researching a book on shadow people. And because I had a booth at these expos, I always missed his talk on shadow people, so I invited him to the Granger House to talk about, I invited him via Skype because he is from Illinois and we're in Iowa. But I invited him to talk about shadow people, and so the three of us attended the same, I guess, discussion, and that's kind of where the topic came up from. But shadow people are kind of like the new demon. It's the new hot topic in paranormal, and so it was a topic that needed to be discussed anyway. First of all, how did you feel about Mike's presentation?
It was interesting. I mean...
Which is a polite way of saying you thought it was garbage.
Well, no, I can't get behind because this shadow person has a hat, it means this. And I just, like, I just can't get behind that theory. Like, I refuse to.
I think he was just presenting, because what he has done, and he didn't really make this super clear, but he, much like Rosemary Ellen Guiley, the way that she did a lot of her studies, was she collected stories from people. And so he's collected stories from people and is basically telling us these are the trends that he's finding.
He did draw personal conclusions, though.
Well, I mean, because he did say, you know...
But I don't...
The crawler was, you know, this. And,
dude, I tell you what, if I saw something crawling at me...
Well, yeah, that would freak me out, too, but I don't know. I mean, I guess I'm kind of with John on the aspect that I think, okay, but prove that that's what that means. Like, prove that because it's doing this, that's what that means. I mean, you're just kind of guessing. And I guess I don't want to say everything has to start with a theory, like I get it, but you are just kind of throwing your opinion out there without any basis behind it, other than just it's your opinion based on some stories that you've got. If that makes sense.
Yeah, but I guess guess I will defend him a little bit in that he drew some of his conclusions based off the amount of stories that he received from people or that he has found throughout history that have had similar, I guess, pieces of the story that went together. So like Old Hag, for example, which is often goes along with sleep paralysis, and the Old Hag syndrome has been talked about in just about, any culture throughout time. Like people have talked about waking up feeling like they have a pressure on their chest and not being able to move. And it got the name Old Hag because some people eventually started reporting actually seeing an old hag sitting on their chest. So it just kind of became Old Hag syndrome. So,
but it used to be called succubi.
Well, isn't that sexual?
It's the same thing, though. It's the same symptoms. I mean, that's what they used to see as well.
How is that the same?
It's sleep paralysis, and they always just be sitting on them and they couldn't breathe.
I thought succubus were just having sex with you, and it was not.
Nope.
Look at John knows.
No, I just I shall do more research.
I'm just giving you a hard time.
I shall send you documented stuff.
I am just giving you a hard time.
But here's the thing, why it's hag is because if they are enjoying it, they look up and what was a beautiful woman suddenly turns into an old hag. So that old hag thing with the sleep paralysis, the pressure on them, it's been around. But I guess the point I'm trying to make is that old lore has now been sucked into the new shadow person thing and attributed to shadow people.
But if you're getting all of this, okay, we'll talk about Hat Man, for example, because that is the top of the cool thing to talk about list. So let's just pretend he had, and I don't know how many stories he's gotten from people reporting Hat Man, but let's just say he had 1,000 stories. And when he talks about it, he said that they tend to be more ominous, but he wasn't convinced that they were necessarily bad. So if you've gotten 800 stories that talk about the Hat Man wearing a fedora and, felt like you were in danger, isn't it okay to then come to the conclusion that he may be an ominous figure and that he may exist? If you've got that many people independently reporting the same thing, I'm not saying it makes it true, but isn't it okay to come to that conclusion based off what you're being given?
What's the definition of ominous? I mean, what does that actually mean?
You know what I'm getting at, though.
I don't actually. I don't mean you. I mean,
no, I know. I know. Okay, but if let's just say
they got a bad feeling.
Well, and hopefully, when you're collecting these stories, I would hope he asked, and he, in the interest of time, he doesn't go into all of that. Nor did we ask, but I would hope that he would ask, okay, what was it that made you feel scared, or what made you feel like you were in danger, or whatever. I would hope that he would ask those questions for more information.
But wouldn't people's reaction, let me put it another way, so if these people aren't actually out ghost hunting, they're just wherever, and they see a shadow figure, just a normal shadow figure for a lot of people would just be ominous. Doesn't matter who's wearing
I get it.
I guess it's
my thing is, first of all, I don't know where this hat comes in. Like, all of a sudden, people are reporting this, and I think it's a lot like Slender Man. Like, people finally realized that Slender Man was made up on the internet, so now we've got Hat Man. Like, I feel like that's how that transitions. But I feel like unless you are seeing a full-body apparition, don't most ghosts appear like shadows? I don't know, because I have not had very much visual experience when it comes to the paranormal.
And not many people. That's like, for us, and I think for a lot of people, that's like the lowest kind of data that you're going to pick up. We picked up that one that we showed a few episodes ago of the one we got for up. Now, I think, my theory on it, I'm not saying they're all just rubbish. I think a lot of people do see some. And, the thing is, because this is why I hate law. Because it's become this law that everybody talks about, that's exactly what they see, because that's what's in their mind now. But if they see something like a shadow, I'm not saying, okay, it might be a phenomena, a ghost trying to form, which he brought up.
I guess for me, I kind of feel like a shadow person is just a ghost that's not fully manifested into a full-body apparition like you or I. Now, he talked about, like, the humanoid figure, Hat Man, the hood hooded figure, mist, red eyes, old hag syndrome, and the wisp. Which I will say, so when we were, my only experience with something like this was in the basement at the Plummer House in Sauk Center, Minnesota. I would say we saw what I would categorize as a humanoid figure, but we definitely saw like the wisp that he talks about too. So he said the wisp is not a full figure. It's similar to smoke, but it does have some type of form to it, and it darts very quickly back and forth. And that, like, when he explained that, I was like, oh my god, that's like perfect with what we were experiencing, which was kind of interesting.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, honestly, I think, we definitely saw two separate things, because some of them seem very just formed right towards you, and then the other ones that we saw, like, darting back and forth in the doorway was...
Well, and even the mist, because at one time it looked like blue smoke.
Yeah, it was...
It was like all of these things.
John, I wish you could have been there for that.
Well, maybe
next time. Next time, yeah.
I just hate the drive. Oh, God.
Yeah. Well, it is going to suck, but and it sucks right now that I assume it's because, and we're getting close to Halloween, so she probably does have people who want to do public events there, but she's...
Yeah, no doors on the toilets, that's extremely public.
I am not kidding you.
Yeah.
Like, there's... When the public restrooms down in the lobby, there's a door inside, but there's no doors on stalls. And in the hotel rooms, there's no door on the bathrooms. So when we went, it was me, Adam, Chandrell, and Josh. Chandrell and Josh were going to share a room, and they're friends. They're not involved in any way, but they thought they would just split the cost of a room. Well, we had to go buy a shower curtain because they couldn't go to the restroom in there. Otherwise, they couldn't shower in there.
And their room was like set up for two people because it was two separate like rooms with beds. But yet they still you still didn't have a door on the bathroom. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah, really.
Yeah,
whose turn is it to wear the blindfold?
Exactly.
Right.
Oh my god, and our toilet screeched.
Oh my god, yes. I do remember that. It sounded like somebody getting murdered the first time I flushed.
And it was like August when we went, and the air conditioner is like this weird box above the bed, but it only ran for like 90 minutes at a time. So we're on the second floor, or the third floor. Is it a 3-story? I don't know. We're on the top floor, whatever, it's second or third. But while you're sleeping, that thing goes off, and you would wake up like in a puddle of sweat and have to stand up and start the 90 minutes over again, or you were going to die.
That was brutal.
I mean, the good thing, so when we went to the Mason Inn, talking about the working hotels, that place is nice. I mean, not a lot happened, but nothing happened, but we had the whole second floor, and every room had a cookie jar with cookies in it. And Nico was just like slapping at the mouth and saying, oh, yeah, cookies! And he reminds me of the Hobbit out of Lord of the Rings. He has like second breakfasts and stuff like that. So,
that's so funny. That's such a cute touch, though. I love that, that she does that.
It's actually in the history. It got started way back.
Really?
Yeah, the old, back from the original owners. They used to bake cookies and leave a cookie jar in each room.
Well, that's super cool that they kept that tradition.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
I think that they probably do a lot to maintain history in that building. I'm not sure the paranormal aspect of it is there. I know a lot of people who say that they've been there and they've had paranormal experiences, so...
And I've only got a day of Portal 1. So I won't say it's not haunted because I don't know.
And you can't.
Plus, I'm contractually bound to not say that. So if I stay in there, which, come on, that's got to be a flag to most people. But, hey,
We should probably get back to shadow people. We kind of got off topic there for a second.
We never do that.
Never. So... Some of these are a little far-fetched. And I shouldn't say far-fetched, but...
Why not?
Okay, there. But...
Okay, fine.
I understand that he has based this on the stories that he's received. So when I look at our notes here, like, I'm trying to put that into perspective. But how many people really see a hooded figure?
Actually, my mom.
Really?
No, and I remember this when I was young. She told me this, and she's had this happen a couple of times, even when I'm an adult. So she was in hospital when I was a kid. I can't remember why, but she did kind of nearly die, and she remembers seeing a hooded monk in the corner and getting really distressed that no one else could see him. And then when she had meningitis, I'm going back, I don't know, 15 years ago or something, she saw the same thing.
I would be interested to know how many people saw it in a situation like that where they had like a near-death experience or a very serious illness. That'd be interesting to know. Like, I want to know more about these stories. Like, again, and he's writing a book, so hopefully his book will be more than just, retelling the tales.
I guess my thing is, I mean, they're all good. They're anecdotes, and I like investigating, and anecdotes are not proof to me. So stories are great, but if I get a story where if you go to this place, you see them a lot, then I'll go there.
But I think this is a good first step for like a case study.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, but it's still anecdotes.
It is.
For me.
You're right. No, you're right. And second step, I definitely think, I don't know how you...
Although he said he was there personally for a number of them.
Well, and his first experience was...
Whoops, my bad.
Was really weird to me. So, Mike's first experience was as a child, and I don't remember how old he said he was, but basically he woke up to what looked like a humanoid figure, a shadow, standing in his room, came over, stood above him, crossed his arms over his chest, and then walked down the hall into the linen closet and disappeared. That's the first one I've ever heard of
physical interaction.
Yeah, which I don't want to discount that experience from him, and I totally believe that in his reality that's what's happened. But I have to, I know he swears to God he was awake, but I just, the rational side of me says that he had to have been asleep or coming out of a dream. Hypnagogic, is that what it's called? Hypnagogic? When you're kind of asleep and kind of awake?
I don't know, that's too big of a word for me.
Anyway, what was your guys' take on that?
To me, I mean, I hear so many anecdotes, and I take the position that 99% of them are, the person believes it's real, but it isn't what they think it is.
Yeah.
And that's still only 99%. I believe that a lot of people do encounter something. If there are ghosts, that's what they're encountering in whatever form. Which comes back to when we were talking about demons, and it becomes that classification game again. So why is, a demon not a shadow person? What makes it a demon? What makes a shadow person with a hat different from a shadow person that's not wearing a hat?
Right.
I mean, it's just, to me, that's because, and that goes back to all the stories you get where there's little bits of differences, people grab onto those differences and then start classifying everything. And to me, that's speculation, and I have a problem with that, because it feeds into people's minds when they go to these places and actually do get a good piece of evidence that they have to then balls up the evidence by adding all this speculation onto it. When what was normally a really good piece of evidence now becomes less credible because they've wrapped it in all of this speculation, and you just end up throwing it out. So I guess that's my take on it.
Yeah.
Well, and hopefully when his book does come out, I mean, I don't read books.
What do you read?
I was just going to ask you that. Then what?
Sometimes I'll read a Facebook post. I'm just not big into reading. But hopefully when his book does come out, he'll explain some of these stories that he's been told that have led him to draw these conclusions. And hopefully some of that will become more clear.
We didn't have that much time with him, so...
Yeah, exactly.
I'll
I mean, there's definitely, I think, there's more to the story, obviously. We only spent, like an hour and a half with him, maybe. And...
I mean, the reason I'll read the book is, you get something out of it one way or another. Even if I don't believe that the anecdotes are real, what it will show me is the way people think, sometimes, So, I read most books, just... Even that horrible one that you mentioned.
Oh, God, it was so bad.
Because it shows... No, but it's a window into how people believe things or think of things, or, how they see a certain thing through a certain lens. It's all educational. It's just,
Well, and the other problem with sorry, I'm just kind of thinking about this whole thing. The other problem with just basing everything off of people's different reports is that people will always, not always, but people tend to make it sound more significant than it really was. So, for example, any of you who listen, you don't know me, so the way I explain...
You just met the listener.
I did. Thanks, Shay.
Right.
And Darren.
Two listeners.
The way that I explain what happened in the basement of the Palmer House Hotel could sound way too fantastic to you to be real, and you could assume that I have bolstered this somehow and made it sound more significant than it really was, which is normal, but I do think a lot of people do that. And shit, this was, I don't even know how many years ago.
It was like 2012.
That's what I was thinking too. I mean, it was a lot of years ago. It was a while ago. So perhaps my mind has even changed it a little bit. Like I said, we couldn't use anything that had light, so we don't really have much to relive that experience anymore.
Here's the thing, and I just read about this. I can't remember the bloody word for it because I'm old, I'm getting senile.
P.S. Hypnagogic is, I was right, the state between wakefulness and sleeping.
You cheated. You used Google.
After I gave you the word.
But people think they know their own minds. There's a word for it. How their minds work.
Oh my God, we don't.
No, because people mostly assume that our memories are they work the same way as a video recorder. And they don't. What your mind remembers is certain points. Mm-hmm. And all the other stuff in between that is like storytelling in your own mind. And that's, proven fact, which is why, prosecuting and defense lawyers know that people make absolutely horrible witnesses. Mm-hmm. We don't remember things like a replay on a video. We remember a couple of points, and the rest our brain just fills in.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, that's one thing that makes why anecdotes and stuff like that I tend to be a bit wary of. And, we're never going to prove ghosts because most ghost hunters, don't have the training, don't have the equipment, and really aren't objective enough. They go into a place that says it's haunted, and they don't even ask if it's haunted. They just try and classify what they're seeing as what type of ghost they're seeing. Mm-hmm. Is this an echo haunting? Is this, all kinds of stuff. So that's why, with the shadow people, I'm like, I really have trouble. I'm not saying people don't see something. Like I say, we've got a picture of a shadow that's just not normal.
Right.
So,
but see, and I didn't make my point very clear because it's hard for me to explain it. But your picture would be a shadow person, but to me it's kind of like just a ghost. I don't know that there's a difference between the two.
I don't think there is.
I would agree. I don't think that there is.
But that's the
either.
problem.
I think it's. I mean, I've seen at the Granger house, and I've seen it during some of our flashlight tours, what looks like a little shadow by the stairs, by the front door. And it looks like, and I just always classify it that it's one of the kids.
Well, and we always say shadow play. Well, so shadow play, you would then shadow people. But
right. But I don't think they're anything different than what you would see. I mean, if you were to see a full-bodied apparition, I don't necessarily think that the shadow is any different. I mean, I agree with you. I think maybe they just can't manifest themselves all the way, and this is the closest they can get.
Well, there's a couple of things. So we talked earlier about, the difference between saying data or evidence or proof, and it becomes slang. So now I think shadow people are becoming the slang for ghosts. Mm-hmm. And the trouble is, with all the speculation and the law that's built up around it, it's getting harder and harder to define what exactly it is you're seeing when you're trying to communicate it to someone else, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So you don't say, I saw a ghost. What kind of ghost? So, where's that question come from? Mm-hmm. What do you mean, what kind of ghost? We don't even know ghosts exist. Nobody's proved it. How can you say what kind of ghosts there are? So,
did anybody ever ask Mike, or did he clarify, and I've just forgotten, what his opinion of what a shadow person is?
Yes, so he's talked about what he has come to decide is that these are interdimensional beings. They lack human qualities and their behaviors are not quite humanistic. They don't communicate, and there's really nothing to differentiate them from each other. So they're, they all are just this dark figure. Whereas if you saw a full-body apparition, you would know Dora from Earl, for example.
Correct, yeah.
So he thinks they're interdimensional beings, which, I think ghosts are interdimensional beings. That is my leap of faith, but...
No, I combine that, because that fits into string theory, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. We already, science already know, okay, like we said earlier, the bulk, the bit between the membranes. Okay, that's fine, or I can buy that, but all these definitions and classifications and everything.
What?
The other thing that I think might be happening, if you want to do leaps of faith, if we go back to the intelligent singularity, a lot of people say, well, why do ghosts wear period clothing? Well, it's because how they remember themselves when, they've got an idea of themselves, we all do, when they manifest. Now, what would happen, for example, if you lost memory of what you used to be like? How would you appear then when you start to form? You might just end up being a shadow person.
That's a good point.
Mm-hmm. There's lots of ways you can go with this, but
I don't have a problem with categorizing them based on the types of, what they've looked like when people have had the experiences, because that's, where we get full body apparitions from, and that is a different category than Hatman, or something that just appears as a mist.
As a description, but when they start saying, well, these types do this, and these types do that, as if it's a rule, that's where I run into problems.
So, and Mike is not the end-all, be-all. We're just kind of using him as a reference, because that's who presented this to us. And he's still, trying to make heads or tails of this himself. So, humanoid figures were a shadow of a normal human. Hatman reports tend to be more ominous, like I said, often reported to be wearing a fedora-type hat.
Indiana Jones.
Super random. and like I said, I think Slender Man has just kind of transitioned into Hatman. A hooded figure would be more like your Grim Reaper. However, it's not the Grim Reaper. Although I will say one thing, he kind of insinuated that he thinks the Grim Reaper is a real thing instead of just a figure that we use to represent something, which I don't mean to laugh about that, it's not funny. But for somebody who's so smart, or that I guess think is very intelligent and has done a lot of work, I was surprised to hear him say that. Mist tends to accompany the hooded figure. It's very shapeless. He was on the show The Haunted, which was on Animal Planet, and part of his experience there was with a mist type experience. I think a mist can be pretty common. Like what we got at Eatburg Manor in the basement, I don't know if it'd really be a mist necessarily. I guess it was kind of just a blob, but then it had an arm.
Well, see, there was a shadow there, but, what we got out of that picture, that wasn't really a shadow. The arm and the wristwatch, those weren't shadows, those had detail.
Yeah.
So
there was a shadow in
front of Eric, but that goes back to, okay, if that's really what was happening, that would point more towards a shadow before, as it's manifesting. So you got it kind of in the middle. It's a shadow and it's a manifestation. So, before it manifests, is it just this dark spot that then suddenly manifests, or, at the moment it's speculation.
Yeah.
We've got a little piece of data, and if we keep doing it, it's just that photographic or video evidence is so rare.
It is very rare.
Red eyes, he talks about, are humanoid figures with red glowing eyes, reported to be very negative. And he called it a wraith, and this was my educational point, so I just assumed wraith was another term for ghost, and he actually defined it as something that was once human and is now an evil being, not a demon, because demons, I think more recognized definition of demon is something that was never human. A wraith would be something that acts more like a demon but was once human.
I think wraiths are supposed to feed off the energy of people, if I'm remembering my folklore.
I guess I've never even really looked into it. I just assumed that's what it was.
See, you never played Dungeons & Dragons as a kid.
I did not. You're correct.
You get very open to lots of folklore playing that game.
So we talked about...
Get beat up a lot, too.
I have no doubt.
Don't be the man I am today.
We talked about the old Hague syndrome. The Wisp not a full figure, similar to smoke with some form. Darts very quickly. And then the crawler, which tends to crawl on all fours on the floor, ceiling, walls, etc. No features, just black. I would shit my pants if I saw that coming at me.
I got trouble with that. That's too movie-ish.
Isn't that a behavior, though? Wouldn't that be a behavior of your humanoid figure?
But why? Yeah. That's too movie-ish for me.
It is.
And I just...
But I think about, like, what we've seen on the SLS camera sometimes. I mean, even at the Granger house, we've seen them crawling on the ceiling.
Yeah, and I've never chalked it up to anything other than they're goofing off.
Granted, you have to buy into the SLS camera to buy into that. But
right. But, I can go back to my experience at Edinburgh when I really, really, really believed
that something crawled,
Yes, that the SLS camera was just picking up the post. Until the dang thing got down on all fours and crawled towards me and popped up in front of me, and I about shit myself. Because the whole time, I mean, we were in there for 45 minutes to an hour, and the thing didn't move. Yep. And I just assumed...
So if you only see it on the SLS and you don't see the darkness with your own eyes, is it then a shadow crawler, or is it a different kind of crawler?
And once again, we get into the classification game.
Yeah, I guess I don't know how I would classify that. I would just say...
Could just say it's a spirit.
Something tried to scare me. Because it worked.
I've soiled myself again.
Well, and I know Kelly McCarville, who has several shows, or I shouldn't say several shows, a few shows that she is affiliated with on Paranormal Buzz Radio. She talks about her experience at Malvern Manor with, and she classifies herself as a psychic. So she was seeing this old woman looking back at her, a spirit of an old woman looking back at her, and eventually the woman got down and crawled very fast and very unnaturally down the hallway towards her and scared the shit out of her as well.
Why would they do that though? I mean, think about it. Why would they do that?
To scare you?
There's a lot better ways of scaring me than doing that, I'll be honest with you.
That would get me out of your space real fast.
That would creep me out, but, I mean, if they really...
Would you just stay there and watch it, though?
Yeah.
Fuck no.
How many people have been
Dude, you wanted to run when your arm got touched.
That would just shock me. I wasn't ready for that.
I'm just saying, you took it to a whole new level when you got some old creepy lady crawling at you.
That's probably true.
I mean, I don't even care if she's alive. If there's some old creepy lady that's totally alive and she just starts crawling at me, I'm running from her.
Yeah, what was that, Exorcist 3, where they were running around with the shears across the roof and stuff? So,
Well, didn't she crab walk down the stairs in the first one?
Yeah. See,
also creepy as hell.
But that's also in my mind of... It's too movie-ish for me, this stuff. Okay, how many creepers were sighted before that was a thing in a movie?
Well, Adam wasn't.
How about the Japanese girl with the hair over her face before The Ring? How many have been seen? You see what I'm trying to say? It's too movie.
But,
I don't
just to play devil's advocate to your point, where did that idea come from?
Someone's imagination.
Or people's stories.
I doubt that there were that many creepers.
But you don't know.
Or maybe, but not as many. Even if there were one or two, which I don't know.
But maybe people said, oh my god, other people are experiencing this as well, and I'm going to come and
What was the other one? Emily Rose?
Yeah. I like that movie.
I did too.
And actually, the real life story...
I couldn't believe the boyfriend that would wake up, look at her and go, oh, are you okay?
Right.
I'd be like, bye.
That movie scared the shit out of Adam. The real life story of Annalise Michael is intense. And the real life recordings from that, I'm not going to lie, they scare the shit out of me. I'm very uncomfortable listening to them.
Let me clarify to everyone that the exorcism of Emily Rose scared the crap out of me because I wasn't feeling good the night I watched that, and I fell asleep on the couch by myself, and I woke up and looked at the clock, and it was whatever to 3:07, 3:15, whatever time it was. And I thought I was going to die. I was convinced that this was happening to me.
That's another one you hear a lot now.
Oh my god, I wake up at 3 a.m. all the fucking time.
Yep.
And it's not because I think there's a ghost standing in my room.
But a lot of people do now because it was in the Amityville Horror.
My daughter thinks that. My daughter, listens to that and,
Maybe we should do a show on movie influences of the paranormal.
Alright.
because there
Episode
are
10.
well, I mean, I don't know if we can fill a whole episode because
Have you listened to us?
We tend to get off topic.
we are the listener.
No, we
And
found out
Shay.
we have two. And Darren.
And Darren.
Yay!
And Nico says he's going to listen too.
So, I mean, the logical part of me says, because the only proof I think that we can get, and I might be wrong, and hopefully I am, but is I always, same as the spirit box, I measure probabilities. So, what's the chances of that happening? When I see something change because it's been in a movie, the point I brought up earlier, the Ouija board, it was fine to use it until The Exorcist happened. People didn't have a problem with it. Then The Exorcist happened. Ouija boards are off limits now. Nobody likes the Ouija board. Nobody uses the Ouija board.
I'm back on the Ouija board bus.
So, but, that movie changed opinion big time on use of the Ouija board. And, that's why the crawlers, the ring ghosts with their hair down and the white shirt, if you look at a lot of ghosts caught on camera or tape in Japan, they nearly all look like that.
Yeah.
So, because it's a Japanese myth, why don't we see, we do see them here now since the film, very rarely before that. So,
Adam, tell us about, I call it as your attachment because I just didn't know what else to call it, but I want to talk about that.
So, ever since I was little, and I would say 7 or 8, probably, somewhere around that time frame, I can remember waking up, and again, I'm under the assumption that I'm awake. I know I always know, and even to this day, that I was sleeping, and I woke up to this.
So you could be in the hypnagogic.
Absolutely, because I've never ruled that out. Like, I've always, what happens is I end up waking up seeing what looks like a human figure. I always chalk it up to that it's a man because it's a larger figure, but I don't know. All black. I guess you would classify it possibly as a shadow person. I don't know if we're going to classify it. I can't move. I can't speak. I know I've gotten more used to it in my older age where I don't freak out as much. It never makes any real movement towards me or anything, and then it's gone, and then I wake up. And almost every single time it's ever happened...
No, you say then you wake up.
Yeah, because...
But you're assuming that you are awake.
Well... I fully come to where I can move again, I guess, maybe. Maybe that's a better way to put it. Because I honestly don't know if I'm asleep or if I'm awake when it happens. I mean, I assume I'm awake because it feels just that real. But then when I come back to full consciousness and I can move again, like, I always, when I'm laying in bed, look at you, Sarah, and be like...
Not John.
No, it's John. Sorry, buddy. It's never going to happen. So...
Oh, man.
I know.
You've been lying to me all these years. I ain't buying you flowers this week.
Chocolates?
Uh-huh.
And I always think, how did she not notice? Like, how in the hell did that just happen? And you didn't have a clue. And I've even, I mean, at least I think I've been like, hey, this just happened, roll over, I'm going to cuddle with you now because I'm scared. But, it's happened to me less and less as I've gotten older. And in fact, I just had a conversation the other night with my son about it. And it went to him. He started seeing the same thing. And he described it to me before I had really ever told him about what had happened to me. And the same kind of experience where he couldn't move, he couldn't do anything, but it was just what looked like a man standing there, all black, and then it's gone. And I don't know, I guess in the definition, probably a shadow person, but I don't know that.
Yeah.
I can't classify it
as a description. It's good.
Right.
Shadow person. I have no problem with but like I say, did it feel ominous? Was wearing a hat?
Well, but here's
attributing what it is and what it wants to do.
Yeah.
Just on its appearance, I don't buy into.
I do agree with what Sarah said earlier, ominous. Well, yeah, I'm scared crapless. Like, I mean, I can't defend myself. I can't move. I mean, I've thought in my head, like, punch the damn thing. Like, so many times I've thought, just punch it. But I can't move. So, yeah, scared. Yeah. So, of course I'm scared. Of course it's ominous.
Yeah,
but I don't necessarily mean that it's bad.
By the same token, though, if you had like a floaty white thing, that was, had a face on it.
Floaty white thing.
I don't know. I'm free falling here. Come on, work with me. Let's get the scene. Come on.
Okay.
So, but you woke up and saw that instead of a shadow person, it'd be just as ominous.
Absolutely.
So
especially
shadow people themselves intrinsically are ominous. It's just having a paranormal experience is ominous. That's why I asked earlier, what does ominous mean?
Right.
We can't just say shadow people are evil because they're ominous. Anything paranormal like that.
Well, absolutely. I mean,
it's going to be ominous, so...
And a lot of paranormal experiences that we have, you chalk them up to being ominous because it's paranormal. Like, you don't know what it is, so yeah, it can tend to be a little scary.
Doing it, yeah.
Yeah. So, that's my experience with whatever you want to classify it as, I guess.
It's definitely a shadow person. I mean, by definition.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, and so non-paranormal people would probably chalk it up to sleep paralysis. Although, first of all, Mike's story about having real life sleep paralysis was like, that would scare the shit out of me as well. So he talks about like just being super exhausted and his body effectively like fell asleep, but his mind was still functioning, like kind of like being in a coma, but your mind's still working. And like he had to like work to wake his body up. Like that would scare me. Like I'd probably go into a panic. So that's a completely different experience than what people are experiencing when they wake up. So I don't think those two are the exact same things. But he did have a good point. So a lot of times they say, well, it's because you were dreaming about this and you're in that hypnagogic state and that's why you're seeing that. But then why if, I'm dreaming of, he used Motley Crue as an example. Why is Motley Crue not standing in my room? Why isn't the drum set in my room? Why all this? And it's always just, these dark figures or whatever.
Oh, let me say one more thing, because this just popped in my head, a little memory that I should have pointed out at the beginning of this whole story. Every time it happens, I know before it happens because there's always a noise.
What's the noise?
It's always like a high-pitched, like, whoop, and then it happens. So I always know when it's going to happen before it happens because I always hear this noise. I know I've probably never explained that before, but it's just because I never really knew how to explain it. But if anybody can explain that to me, that has always happened before I see what I see. Every single time. And so every single time I can honestly tell you, I know before it happens because there's always that noise. So when we talk about string theory and the membranes and the bulk and the space between, like, there's a part of me that says that's the noise of whatever this entity is coming through. I mean, that's how I'm justifying that to myself.
Well, you're going to get displacement. If it becomes solid, you're going to get where it was.
Yeah, and so...
displaced. I mean, that could be it. I don't know, I'm not a physicist.
I know. If
I was, I probably wouldn't be sitting here.
Rude.
So it's just...
No, because I'd be like, it's all rubbish. I'd be materialist scientist. I'd be like, we are not greater than the sum of our parts.
Right. So that has always happened also with that experience that I have. And it has followed me in every house I've ever lived in. It's followed me... I mean, it happened to me when I was in basic training in the military, when I was in a bay with 65 other guys. And I was the only one, obviously, that experienced it, because I did it.
Did you cuddle with them for comfort?
No. I did tell one other person that I was with about it, and they kind of laughed and went, oh, okay, you're weird. But, whatever. But
meds.
It's just, yeah, exactly. Section 8, anybody? So, I don't know, I can't explain it.
I do think it's interesting because hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people have these experiences. So there's something to it. Whether it's paranormal or not, I can't say. I don't think any of us really can. But
I can give you the boring theories of why it may happen.
Go ahead.
But that still doesn't cover all of them. That is why I don't, I'm not materialist scientist. I do believe that we are more, but there have been lots of reports of things like very low frequency sound will make you hallucinate, and that can come from a fan. Magnetic fields on temporal lobe. The God Helmet experiment. That can make you see things or feel presences. I mean,
heroin. talked about. Heroin.
But I haven't done heroin in years. So.
You want some of mine?
He's been scrying with it.
What I'm saying is, there are scientific reasons that can make you hallucinate.
For sure.
But, like you said, there are so many of these stories under so many different circumstances. Are they all paranormal? No, I don't think they are. But there's enough of them there where you gotta look into it and say, maybe something else is going on here. It can't all just be, bad fans and, your fuse box above your bed, stuff like that. So
yeah.
I try and look at it from both sides, which drives me mental sometimes. But, could it be this? Could it be that?
Yeah.
But,
who knows?
But you don't throw out the paranormal, because I say a lot, if I'm having to do mental gymnastics logically to explain something that could be paranormal, then maybe it just is paranormal.
Well, and I've, with my experience, I've always chalked it up to that I was probably just sleeping and dreaming, and I guess maybe that's just my way of making myself feel better about it. I don't know. But,
or it could be paranormal.
Or, yeah. Exactly.
Sometimes a spoon's a spoon.
Yeah. It's just, I don't know. I mean, I can remember being a kid and asking my mom about the man standing at my bed. She just dismissed it as, you're just dreaming, so.
Isn't that what we always tell our kids?
Well, yeah. I mean, I told my son that when he first experienced it. That was just a dream. I'm going to tell you the truth tomorrow after we get some sleep.
Sorry, Cobes.
Sorry, buddy. If you're listening, which you're probably not.
Probably not. All right. Well, so our conclusion is shadow people, if they exist, are just ghosts?
That's what I think.
Okay.
I would agree. Yeah.
It's just...
I like your theory about they just haven't manifested all the way, and that's as far as they get.
Do they behave differently? Yeah, but I don't think it's based on their shape.
Alright, well, because we did Shay's Paranormal Chat, I neglected to find a picture of the week. So we are going to bypass that this week. Next week, I will make sure we have one.
Use Adam's Instagram picture.
Oh, that's interesting.
Oh,
story for another day.
Anyway, so next episode we'll talk about how movies and TV have
an impact on our beliefs, carry over into paranormal research and investigation.
Yes, we'll do that. All right. Well, until then, my friends, keep seeking out the paranormal.
Thank you for listening, and for all things Paranormal Buzz Radio related, check out our website at paranormalbuzzradio.com. Like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter and Instagram.